A brazen car theft in Mississauga caught on camera. Police make additional arrests after one suspect turned herself in. Good afternoon. Peel Police officers announced today that they have arrested 4 people in connection with multiple vehicle thefts.
These thefts include a carjacking in Mississauga that you saw there on video that resulted in the vehicle owner getting struck by his own vehicle. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live in Mississauga with the latest on this. Beth.
Michelle and Sean, that video got a lot of attention around the GTA, and now Peel Police have announced 4 additional arrests. We first heard about 18-year-old Sarah Bradshaw being charged for her alleged role. A 36-year-old man from Toronto has been charged now, along with a 21-year-old man also from Toronto, and 2 youth are also facing charges. Police believe in addition to the stolen Porsche Cayenne, there was also a BMW, a blue one, that played a role in this incident, and police have now recovered the vehicles. I asked police, given the wide-ranging ages of the people arrested in this case, what they may understand about what's going on in this case.
Investigators believe these individuals to be part of an organized group responsible for several serious offenses, and they anticipate laying further charges.
The victim in this case, we are told, is doing okay, and Peel Police reminding the public today about safety when it comes to making sales and exchanges. They actually have 5 safe exchange drop-off locations in Peel that people can arrange, where there are surveillance cameras, so everything can go smoothly. Reporting live at Peel Police headquarters, I'm Beth McDonnell. Sean, Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Still ahead, experts dig deeper on the Ford government's proposal to build a tunnel underneath the 401. We have more on the potential roadblocks coming up a little later in the newscast.
But first, let's take a check on your weather forecast as we head into the final weekend of September. Gorgeous sunshine for your Friday. Nice, mild conditions for this time of year. Jessica Smith is here with the sunny details. Jess.
A beautiful way to end the work and school week, right? We have tons of sunshine, lots of warmth out there, and a fairly moderate easterly wind becoming northeasterly later on. So if you do have outdoor plans, maybe you're taking off a little early, fantastic to spend some time outside. But we do have a higher UV index at a 6, so sun protection is key. Now, as we make our way throughout southern Ontario, we're already kind of in that upper teen, low 20 range, and we will only get warmer as we head into that second half of our day. We're looking right now through the islands and through Pearson around 21, 22, just a hint of a humidex as we head throughout this kind of second half of our day, and we will see a daytime high once again above seasonal. Coming up, we'll break down your weekend forecast. We will see kind of parts of the storm Helene kind of making its way slightly into southern Ontario. We by no means will see the eye of it, but we will see parts of that in the way of some shower activity. Coming up, your full forecast right now. Back over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. After the Premier announced a blockbuster plan to build an underground traffic tunnel below Highway 401, Doug Ford is doubling down.
But experts say the billions it could cost and the challenges it could face could be roadblocks to the tunnel vision. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris explains.
For a second morning, not far from the 401, the Premier is driving ahead.
We're getting that tunnel built, I'll guarantee you.
Determined to dig a new highway under Canada's busiest.
We just have to do something. You know, the traffic is absolutely horrendous.
Even those who agree the 401 is overloaded and applaud the idea of a tunnel warn.
If you're expecting congestion to disappear or travel times to decline, that's not going to happen.
Instead, we're talking about moving more people at about the same rate as the GTA's population swells. A 401 tunnel could be the world's longest, and that comes with a colossal price tag.
It could be as much as $500 million a kilometer, and if you're building about 60 kilometers.
You're climbing into tens of billions of dollars easily, and deep underground, the unknown unknowns are high.
You don't know if you're going to hit water table, you're going to hit rock segments or rock structures that you were not anticipating. You can even have buried rivers.
All of which could blow away budgets and timelines. That's some of the frustration that flared up in Boston's infamous Big Dig, burying a highway running through the city's core, eventually replacing it with public spaces and parks.
In the background of my whole childhood.
Ian Koss spent a year and a half researching a Peabody-winning podcast on the Big Dig for GBH News.
This is a project that was ridiculed at times. It was pretty far out when it was first proposed. It was extremely expensive, but it also delivered real results.
Missing in the plan to stitch the city back together, a big investment in trains and buses.
It's very hard to actually rely on public transit if you need to get somewhere on time.
The premier does envision transit running alongside cars underground.
A multimodal tunnel, and at the core of it, I see express bus service, express rail service.
Something that stuck with costs came from the former Massachusetts transportation secretary who dreamed up the big dig. Questions to bring to any swing for the fences project.
One is, are you doing the right project? And are you doing the project right?
With an emphasis on that first part.
That is the question that, Ontario will have to answer for itself. Is this the right project?
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Police say a woman is fighting for her life in hospital after an overnight crash in the city's northwest. This happened just before 2 this morning at Redgrave Drive and Clarion Road. That's near near the 401 and Highway 27. Investigators say the vehicle crashed into a tree. The woman is being treated in a trauma center. There's no word at this point on the circumstances surrounding the crash.
A woman is dead and another is critically injured after a crash in Mississauga. It happened shortly before 2:30 yesterday afternoon at Derry Road and Goreway Drive. Peel police say a tractor-trailer collided with a garbage truck. 2 people were rushed to a trauma center where one succumbed to their injuries.
Our Major Collision Bureau is on the scene right now, and they are investigating this incident. Ministry of Labor have also been advised of this incident. If anyone have any information regarding this incident, or they were in this area while this incident happened, or may have a dash cam footage, we encourage you to just contact us, our Major Collision Bureau, or if you wish to stay anonymous, you can contact Peel Crime Stoppers. At this time, this is a fresh investigation, and I have very limited details to share as of right now.
The cause of the collision is unknown, and it's unclear which direction the 2 trucks were traveling at the time of the incident.
Peel police are also asking for help from the public to identify a man wanted in connection to 2 violent sexual assaults in Brampton.
The most recent assault happening just last weekend. CTV's John Musselman is live in Brampton with more. John.
And Sean, that latest incident did happen not far from where I'm standing here, and women we've talked to this morning are quite concerned about this. Peel Regional Police are looking for this man in connection with 2 alleged sexual assaults. The first incident happened on September 2nd when a 19-year-old woman was walking near Steeles Avenue West and McLaughlin Boulevard. That's when a suspect assaulted her before fleeing the area. The second incident happened on September 22nd near Ray Lawson Boulevard around 1:30 a.m. A 19-year-old woman was also sexually assaulted.
Peel Regional Police is again appealing to the public to contact investigators in the Special Victims Unit if you have any information that can lead to the identity of this male.
The suspect is described as a South Asian man in his late 20s or early 30s. He's about 5'8" to 5'10", medium build with dark short hair and a receding hairline. Women who live and work in the area say this is frightening and disturbing.
I just always be on the phone with someone, so if anything happen, they hear it on the phone and probably can track me down.
We are not safe if these guys are like type of guys are surrounding here.
The victims in both cases sustained minor physical injuries. So if you recognize the suspect in that video, you're asked to call Peel Regional Police or Crime Stoppers. Reporting live in Brampton, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back inside to you.
Thank you, John. One person is in hospital after an assault with a knife at a residence in Brampton. Peel police and paramedics responded to the home on Woodward Avenue near Kennedy and Vaughan before 8 p.m. Paramedics say a man was taken to hospital with serious injuries. There is no suspect information right now. Ontario's Attorney General wants the Supreme Court to quickly take a look at a case that could impact Kenneth Law's prosecution. The AG is asking Canada's highest court to consider an expedited review of an appeal court ruling that suggests an accused may only be liable for murder if they provided a person who committed suicide with a lethal substance and also overbore the victim's free will in choosing suicide. Law is facing 14 counts each of first-degree murder and aiding suicide for allegedly selling poison online to people who later took their own lives with his products. His lawyer says he will plead not guilty.
Defense lawyers for Jacob Hogard are expected to continue cross-examination of his accuser today. Hogard, the former frontman for the band Headley, has pleaded not guilty to a charge of sexual assault that allegedly took place in Kirkland Lake in 2016 after a concert. The complainant has alleged that Hogard raped, hit, and choked her in his hotel room after she attended his band's concert and an after-party.
A Canadian rapper is also facing sexual assault allegations. Kanon, the man behind the global mega hit Wavin' Flag, has been charged with sexual assault.
The incident allegedly took place the same year his single became the promotional anthem for the 2010 World Cup. CTV's Andrew Johnson has the details.
Four-time Juno winner Kanon was arrested in Quebec City on Monday, the day before he received a SOCAN award in Toronto honoring his biggest hit. Wavin' Flag went #1 in more than a dozen countries and was used as the official song for the 2010 FIFA World Cup. That same year, police claim Kanon, whose given name is Kanon Abdi Warsami, sexually assaulted someone between July 16th and 17th in Quebec City.
It's not uncommon for sexual assault victims to wait months, sometimes even years, to come forward.
Kanon faces one charge of sexual assault. The victim was 29 at the time of the alleged attack 14 years ago.
It's going to be one of these two defenses. It didn't happen, or it did, but it was consensual. Those are generally the two directions that the defense will go in. So if there is some evidence of sexual contact, and we're talking about something that happened 14 years ago, that it wasn't me defense probably isn't going to work. So then the question is, was it consensual?
Kanon has been a champion for refugees, drawing on his own experience escaping war in Somalia at the age of 13. CTV's W5 followed him to Africa in 2011, when millions of people faced starvation, fleeing the war-torn country.
It's like you outside of yourself, watching the former you be in a position that you just wish nobody was ever in.
In recent years, Kanon has worked in television and film. The 47-year-old directed a movie called Mother Mother that recently premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. Kanon hasn't responded to the allegation. A preliminary inquiry into the sexual assault charge is scheduled for next April. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
It was a long night in Florida and much of the southeastern U.S. as emergency crews rescued people trapped by floodwaters after Hurricane Helene made landfall.
It roared into the Sunshine State as a powerful Category 4, the strongest storm ever to slam into Florida's Big Bend. There were at least 4 storm-related deaths. The city of South Pasadena posted videos showing the challenging conditions that rescuers faced. Numerous people were stranded and they were brought to safety, including a man and his 2 dogs in Atlanta, where roads were transformed into rivers. Storm surges and heavy rains caused the flooding. More than 3 million homes and businesses are without power. And now CTV's Scott Hurst is standing by with the latest. Scott, what do we know?
John, it was a massive storm. You mentioned Category 4 hurricane when it landed on the shores of Florida, and that means winds topping well over 200 kilometers an hour, and that is quite significant and historic for the region where it came ashore. And to make matters worse, it roared ashore under the cover of darkness. Now, in the light of day, emergency responders and federal officials, state officials, local officials will get a much better picture of the extent of the damage, and it is quite significant, quite severe, and widespread. First responders are now fanning out across multiple states, federal authorities staging search and rescue teams up and down the coast. National Guard also activated, and the death toll is rising across multiple states. We just moments ago heard a report out of Atlanta where in Georgia, in that state, upwards of 11 people have been confirmed dead related to the storm. And this was a significant storm that is widespread from Florida into Georgia, North and South Carolina also affected. And this is quite significant and really telling of how severe it was. There is a sheriff's department right along the coast in Florida that put out a message to the residents who were hunkering down, who decided not to leave, to write their name and date of birth on their leg in permanent marker in case sheriff's deputies and other first responders had to go in and potentially identify bodies. And so that is quite grim and quite a dramatic statement to make, but also really shows you the conditions that first responders and that sheriff's department were working under.
Certainly a startling reality when you call on people to do something like that. Now, we know the storm, like you said, has covered multiple states. Where's it headed now?
Yeah, it left a real trail of destruction through Georgia and through Florida and then into Georgia. So it's really lashing northern Georgia right now, sideswiping North and South Carolina. And it's making a northwest track. And so that is setting its sights on states like Tennessee and Kentucky. Kentucky's governor, Andy Beshear, warning the storm could still bring heavy rain, damaging wind, and flash flooding to that state, stopping short of declaring a state of emergency. But several states still in its path, even though it is now a tropical storm, still taking a lot of precaution. Here's more from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
If you are still in the path of the storm, with the flash flooding that you're seeing in Atlanta, what we expect to see in North Carolina, I'm worried about landslides in those areas. And so there's such a variety of threats that are coming from this storm. We're hearing reports of tornadoes in certain areas. And so there's still so much that's happening across many states. So
Sean, unfortunately for our friends in the Maritimes, it appears that they're going to miss this storm. They're so used to, of course, remnants of hurricanes, tropical storms, and hurricanes hitting the Atlantic region itself. But it appears this is taking a northwest track, so moving away from our friends in the Maritimes, fortunately.
Okay, scary time for the southeastern U.S., but a bit of good news for the folks in the East Coast in Canada. Thank you very much, Scott Hurst, for joining us live today.
Thanks, Sean.
Israel's prime minister addressed the UN General Assembly this morning. Benjamin Netanyahu said his country will fight until it achieves total victory if Hamas does not surrender in Gaza.
Because if Hamas stays in power, it will regroup, rearm, and attack Israel again and again and again, as it is vowed to do. So Hamas has got to go. Just imagine, for those who say, well, Hamas has to stay, it has to be part of a post-war Gaza. Imagine, in a post-war situation in World War II, imagine allowing the defeated Nazis in 1945 to rebuild Germany. It's inconceivable. It's ridiculous. It didn't happen then. It's not going to happen now.
Netanyahu said he decided to speak at the UN to defend Israel's response to the October 7th Hamas attacks that set off the war. He also told delegates his country will no longer tolerate rocket fire from the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, saying, quote, enough is enough.
Also in New York, Ukraine's president is meeting with Donald Trump as Volodymyr Zelensky seeks to shore up American support.
After November, we have to decide, and we hope that the strength of United States will be very strong, and we count on it. That's why I decided to meet with both candidates with all honor.
If we have a win, I think long before January 20th, before I would take the presidency, it's January 20th, but long before that, I think that we can work out something that's good for both sides. It's time.
Trump said he's pleased to meet with Zelensky, a change in tone from some of his previous comments on the campaign trail. The Ukrainian president says he wants to discuss his victory plan for Ukraine with Trump during their first meeting since 2019. Yesterday, Zelensky met with Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris, who pledged unwavering support. Earlier on Thursday, he sat down with U.S. President Joe Biden, who announced an additional $8 billion in military assistance.
Back here at home, preparations are underway at Nathan Phillips Square for a weekend of events leading up to National Day of Truth and Reconciliation on Monday. This is part of the 7th annual Indigenous Legacy Gathering Day. There was a sunrise ceremony this morning, beginning 4 days of events that include workshops, language ceremonies, drumming, and dancing. The mayor was among the dignitaries speaking at today's event.
As we remember and as we apologize, we're also here to recognize the spirit of resilience and resistance. We are recognizing the ongoing struggle for remembrance and reconciliation and justice.
The gathering at Nathan Phillips Square is open until 8 p.m.
Pope Francis continued his visit to Central Europe today, meeting with Belgium's king and queen. The meeting with the monarch was cordial but amicable. But Belgium's prime minister blasted the pontiff for the Catholic Church's legacy of clerical sex abuse and cover-ups. He demanded concrete steps to come clean with the past and put victims' interests ahead of those of the institution. The Pope is expected to meet with victims in private today.
Sad news from the entertainment world today. Oscar-winning actress Maggie Smith, best known for her roles in Harry Potter and Downton Abbey, has died. Smith won an Academy Award for her role in The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie in 1969 and for California Suite in 1978. Over the course of her 7-decade career on the stage and the screen, she's also earned 5 BAFTA Awards, 4 Emmys, 3 Golden Globes, and a Tony. More recently, she gained a new generation of fans for her roles in Downton Abbey and Harry Potter. A statement from her son says Smith died today in a London hospital. She was 89 years old.
Former Raptors star Vince Carter will be back in Toronto today, and you might have noticed some signs of his visit. Carter's here for the unveiling of the revitalized Vince Carter Court in Dixon Park. It was originally built in 2003 by Carter's Embassy of Hope Foundation and has since been refurbished by the MLSE Foundation with support from the city. Carter will be joined by Raptors President Masai Ujiri and some current players for today's event, which gets underway at 1:45 p.m.
You'll be able to get a piece of a local landmark in Leslieville with a donation to charity this weekend. The dolls at the Leslieville Dollhouse are being given away.
We didn't realize there'd be so much interest in the house. Most of the feedback has been kind of understanding of the next owner would be making their own mark on the home. It was funny, I was sitting on a patio just down the street and people overheard that we had bought the house, and that's what kind of triggered the idea that we should let people come say goodbye to it. Because people were asking, when are you going to take them down? Can we take a piece home with us? So we don't know what kind of turnout we'll have on Sunday. Hopefully all of it's gone, and again, we can get started on making it a bit more into our aesthetic.
People will also be able to take one last look at the so-called dollhouse on Sunday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and they can take a doll home with a donation to the MLSE Foundation Launchpad. Jess.
Well, a beautiful day ahead of us to round out the work and school week. Temperature-wise, maintaining this above seasonal trend we've seen for the majority of the month. We'll sit around 23. It'll feel a little closer to 26 and just a whole lot of sunshine out there with a fairly moderate easterly wind. And that sunset time, 7:04 p.m. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including your weekend and the chance of a little bit of precipitation making its way in. All those details after the break.
Welcome back. It's an absolutely beautiful Friday. It's everything we want. The humidity seems to be gone. The sun is out. Jessica, how are you feeling today?
That was a nice conductor type of style of introducing the weather.
Yeah, I wanted to bring it up.
You know what? And we're going up with the sunshine. It's beautiful outside. These are the fall days you enjoy because it's cool in the morning. We get that sweet kind of spot in the afternoon with the heat, and then it cools down in the evening, with the exception of tonight. It'll be pretty warm. But a beautiful way to end the week. And as we step into the weekend, temperature-wise, it's not so bad, but we do see the chance of a little rain, kind of that leading edge of Helene. So we by no means get the extensive rain that has been south of the border, but we will see probably a few showers. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers you don't pay unless they win. Now, beautiful start to the day, a nice sunrise out there, a nice shot of the city from the chopper. And these are the days that you really enjoy, right? We have that beautiful kind of slow start to the day. The sunrise is a little later, but more people get to enjoy it, right, when it's like that outside. As we step throughout the rest of our day today, we hold on to that high pressure and that sunshine. So if you can get out and enjoy it, I recommend you do so. But hydration, sun protection, you guys know the whole deal. Temperature-wise, we're already at 22. It feels like 25. Portions of northern Ontario also holding on to a decent amount of warmth as we get throughout our day today. We don't see too much of a change when it comes to our daytime high. We hold on just above seasonal, those humidex values in that mid to upper 20 kind of range. Into this evening, it is going to be warm. We'll sit at 18. We should be at 9, so we're nowhere near where we should be. We're a little closer to seasonal the further kind of east you go, say through areas pretty typical through Peterborough, through Bancroft, but overall, everybody's pretty warm. Now, there is that leading edge of Helene, and it's going to make its way in as we head in towards the day tomorrow and through our Sunday. By no means is it going to be a super soaker like they've been been experiencing south of the border, but we will see a few of those showers kind of come in at just kind of that top end of the system there. But throughout the rest of our day today, it is gorgeous. Some cloud cover pushes in as we head in towards the early evening, clouds overnight, and then we step into our Saturday, not too bad. Again, it's very scattered showers as we head throughout the day, starting out towards Hamilton and the Niagara region. For us in the GTA, this comes kind of midday. We get into the early evening, a few more scattered showers out there, and then it starts to push its way out. As we get into Sunday, the tail end of it really starts to dissipate, and then we will eventually see the sunshine start to make its way back in. Temperature-wise, we are still above seasonal as we step in towards the end of the month, which is Monday. Temperature-wise, we're sitting in that mid-20 range, still feeling into the upper 20s, so keep that in mind. Even without the brilliant sunshine this weekend, it is still quite humid out there. Our overnight lows nowhere near seasonal. As we get in towards Monday, we are looking at a mix of sun and cloud, a beautiful way to start the week, and also great for National Truth and Reconciliation Day for all these ceremonies taking place. Now, as we head throughout the rest of the week, we step into October on Tuesday. Is pretty nice. There's a chance of maybe a passing shower, but overall it is fantastic. But the only seasonal day we have over the next 7 likely is Wednesday of next week. And we'll switch gears. It is your time to win big. The Princess Margaret Home Lottery VIP prize deadline is midnight tonight. The VIP prize includes a 2024 Porsche 718 Boxster Roadster and a paradise trip to Hawaii, or take $100,000 cash, featuring over 16,000 aspirational prizes valued at more than $16 million. Imagine winning a $7.4 million grand prize that includes a king show home, plus you get $500,000 cash, and a gorgeous $2.4 million grand prize with a show home in Georgian Bay, plus $50,000 cash. And the $1.2 million bonus prize with a downtown Toronto condo, season tickets to the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto Raptors, and the Toronto FC, plus $50,000 cash. And let's not forget the world famous $2.7 million early bird prize with a breathtaking Kawartha lakefront cottage, plus $50,000 cash. Plus, you can win big cash prizes with the 50/50 cash calendar and the new Wanderlist add-ons. Every ticket helps fund life-saving cancer research. Get your tickets today at theprincessmargaretlotto.com or by calling 1-866-631-1234. Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Next, to a new investigation by CTV's W5 about the quest by migrants looking for a new life, but facing a deadly trek to get to Canada and the U.S.
I'm Avery Haynes, riding on top of a train through Mexico, a train with some ominous names. La Bestia, El Tren de la Muerte, the Beast, the Train of Death.
That's a scene from CTV's W5. It's a special 5-part series and 1-hour documentary called Narco Jungle, The Death Train, shining a spotlight on the route where human smugglers are cashing in on the migrant crisis. And CTV's W5 managing editor and senior correspondent Avery Haynes is with us on the desk this afternoon. This is a follow-up to your coverage of the so-called Darien Gap and it highlighting the plight of migrants. Tell us this next chapter.
Right, so last season we trekked from Colombia to Panama through the Darien Gap. It's one of the most dangerous and physically challenging migrant routes in the world. Hundreds of thousands of migrants are tackling that jungle every single year. We followed 3 families, and the piece that starts airing on CTV National News on Monday all week and then culminating in a 1-hour documentary is my search to find them again as they've made their way up Central America and into Mexico, which they describe as worse than the jungle from the experiences that they had there. And that clip that you just played was me riding on top of this death train, which is just a regular freight trains, but migrants are jumping on it, dangling off the sides and on top, trying to keep away from the narcos as they make their way through narco territory.
And it's very difficult to comprehend for somebody in North America just how dangerous these migrants' work is. Like, can you give me a sense beyond the train, just what kind of things they're dealing with?
So in Mexico, they are preyed on by cartels. Every cartel is making hundreds of millions of dollars off them. We traveled the route of the U.S.-Mexico wall, the border, the entire way, like 3,000 kilometers. And at every time we stopped, they're called Falcons, they're cartel spies, would come up and harass us because we were spending too much time in their territory. And so, and then in another Mexican city, a stash house was busted and the migrants were kidnapped and tortured and sexually assaulted for not paying the cartel. So it really is a a business, a very lucrative business for narcos built on human misery.
And this is an exciting time for how W5 is telling these important stories, because you have extensive coverage next week, every night, and then there's going to be an hour-long documentary. Talk to us about how you're breaking this down.
Okay, so what's great about this is the relaunch of W5, not in its old format, but in a new format, which is in investigations that are going to air on CTV National News. So that begins on Monday. Over the year, I'll be doing a series of one-hour documentaries starting October 5th in W5's old time slot, 7 p.m. on Saturday, that are called Avery Haines Investigates, taking people places that they wouldn't maybe normally necessarily go. And what I'm really excited about is one of your colleagues has joined our team.
John Woodward, you all know him.
John Woodward, who has shown again and again on your newscast how great he is at digging deep in stories that are not being told anywhere else. So he's joining us, as well as Rick Westhead and a number of other correspondents on the national news team who will be offering their services and their investigative skills over the course of this year. So it all starts on Monday.
Cannot wait to see what all of you and all your incredible skills put together will result in. It's amazing. And we love it when Avery Haines gets to join us here.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much, guys.
Appreciate it, Avery. That's W5's Avery Haines. And remember, her 5-part investigative series called Narco Jungle, The Death Train. It airs on CTV National News at 11 p.m. all next week. And then there's that special one-hour documentary, which airs on Saturday, October 5th at 7 p.m.
Tonight at 6, how to drive away that unpleasant odor.
If it sits for long enough, it creates that musty smell.
And keep your car...
This is where the air comes from that goes into your heating and cooling system.
...smelling fresh. Tonight on CTV News at 6.
A milestone for mental health supports across the city. The Toronto Community Crisis Service is now available citywide. The number to call is simple, 211. It's described as the city's 4th emergency response service, providing free, confidential, in-person mental health support from mobile crisis teams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
This groundbreaking service provides a non-police, community-based, client-focused, and trauma-informed response to mental health crisis and wellness checks in our city. It is one of the priorities under SafeTO, the City of Toronto's Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan.
The crisis service was launched as a pilot back in 2022 and has now expanded to every neighborhood earlier than planned.
The constitutionality of a portion of Canada's medically assisted dying law will soon be filed in an Ontario court.
This chartered challenge is being brought forward by a coalition representing people who are disabled, but whose conditions are not terminal. CTV national correspondent Judy Trin has more.
This coalition is fighting for the rights of people with disabilities. The group says a portion of Canada's law on medically assisted deaths is discriminatory.
Let me be blunt. By allowing assisted suicide solely on the basis of disability, our government is telling Canadians with disabilities, and for that matter, all Canadians, that their lives are less valuable, that their suffering is best relieved by death rather than support. This is not just wrong, it's discriminatory, and it violates our most fundamental rights.
The data doesn't reveal who has disabilities. Since 2017, MAID deaths have increased 4.5 times. That year, 2,838 deaths were medically assisted, compared to more than 13,000 in 2022. The coalition will file a charter challenge in Ontario. It argues MAID is being offered too easily to people who are socially deprived, living in poverty, and lacking health supports.
I've just recently been asked, why would you choose to live rather than when you had MAID? I went in for a bruised hip, not because I was suffering, because I've got a disability. Can you imagine how flippant that is?
But supporters of the law say there is no evidence that shows health practitioners are not acting responsibly.
Overwhelmingly, it's actually people who are affluent, educated, well off that are having an assisted death. There's nothing that would demonstrate that those who are more vulnerable are being approved for MAID.
According to Statistics Canada, the amount of people choosing to die with medical assistance accounts for about 4% of the total deaths in Canada each year. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still to come, the Toronto Composite stock hit a new record high today. Details and the rest of your business headlines coming up after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Canadian and U.S. stocks hit another record high today on fresh evidence that U.S. inflation is under control.
Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg brings us the latest business news.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. The Toronto Composite Stock Index held above 24,000 this morning, hitting a new record high. And U.S. shares also set a record. The Federal Reserve's preferred measure of underlying inflation, the so-called Core Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, rose modestly in August, underscoring a cooling economy. Costco shares have been a star performer, increasing threefold in the past 5 years. But the shares slipped about 2% this morning after the warehouse chain reported a narrow miss on revenue. Citi, which rates the stock at hold, warned that it's hard to, quote, see a catalyst that will drive shares significantly higher at the current valuation. And finally, oil remains stuck below $68 US in early trading on concerns that the Saudis plan to hike production. Bloomberg says that in the past few weeks, speculators have been wagering heavily against oil prices. It says so-called commodity trading advisors, trend-following funds that trade largely on technical indicators, have built huge bets that crude will fall. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
Well, many of us have expensive televisions, computers, and gaming systems, which should be plugged into surge protectors in case of a power outage.
They can help protect your devices in case of a power surge, but even if you use them, there is no guarantee they're going to work every time. Our Pat Foran has more on this consumer alert.
Artek Arzu Mannion of Pickering had to buy a new flat-screen TV when his was damaged in a power outage.
I found out that my smart TV is broken. It's not working anymore, and it was caught in a so-called power cycle.
His fried set now sits in his basement. When you turn it on, it quickly fades to black.
You cannot use this TV anymore.
Arzu Mannion used a surge protector designed to prevent excess voltage from damaging electronic devices. He felt his electricity provider, Alexicon, should replace his $1,600 TV, and he filed a claim with their insurance company.
I think they have to take responsibility for what happened.
But the company denied the claim and said Alexicon had no control over these power outages as they resulted from a loss of supply from Hydro One.
I want the TV fixed.
Brian Broadhagen of Brantford also had a power surge damage his TV, and he also used a surge protector. He wanted his apartment building to replace the set, but was told to file a claim through his tenant insurance.
When you put a claim into the insurance, then your insurance goes up. And I don't feel that I should have to pay for it.
In both cases, the homeowners use surge protectors, but according to Consumer Reports, they don't work 100% of the time. They also can fail, expire, and need to be replaced.
Surge protectors actually do have an expiration date.
Rich Fisco says surge protectors may have to be replaced every 3 to 5 years and wear out over time protecting devices. A big jolt from a power outage could render one ineffective.
It basically would have given up its life to protect that TV. It's done. You need to get rid of that and buy a new one. It did the job.
It's recommended to use surge protectors and keep them up to date. Arzu Mannion still feels his electricity provider should be accountable for damaging his set.
I'm not expecting them to pay for my new TV, but I'm expecting from them to take some kind of responsibility for what happened.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Well, Live Aid back in 1985 was one of the biggest benefit concerts ever, and the story is now being told in a new musical.
And singer-songwriter Bob Geldhof, who founded the supergroup Band Aid to make it all happen, is in Toronto to talk about it. CTV's Andrea Case has been talking to him, and she joins us live now with more. Andrea.
Hi, Michelle and Sean. Yes, I know both of you were just born when this incredible concert took place on 2 continents, and it was really an effort to raise money to eliminate famine and poverty in Africa. To this day, the wars still continue and the need is still great. And when producers came along to Bob Geldhof to say we should do a musical stage play about this, he wasn't really on board. But very quickly, once he saw how the whole thing came together, he decided that he would take part. His name isn't on it, but his heart is certainly in it. So the producers and Mr. Geldhof were here, I should say, Sir Bob Geldhof were here today. And Bob really talked about the fact that when you come see the show in January, when it opens in Toronto, he hopes that you leave the theater wanting to do something about it.
If the youngest ones leave and think you are not powerless, the individual is not powerless in the face of human monstrosities, that you have agency, that you can make the decision, even if it is something as simple as just recognizing someone who's hurt and just needs a hand and just says, you know what, dude, let me give you a hand here, and gives them a hand up. And then sense that I could do something like this, not in the same way, because that's gone, but something with this new whiz-bang device I've got in my hand. I wouldn't know how to do it. I'm not interested in that. But if they leave and say, it would be interesting to try this for that reason, then without any shadow of a doubt, that's what interests me the most. You know, what's the next thing?
And the next thing, of course, is you can see the show here at the CAA Ed Mirvish Theatre. It opens on January 26th of 2025. Tickets go on sale October 7th. You can get them from mirvish.com. And of course, money raised on the show still goes to helping those in need. So you get a double whammy. You get to see a great show and you get to help others. Reporting for CTV News, I'm Andrea Case at the Ed Mirvish, CAA Ed Mirvish Theatre on Victoria Street. Michelle and Sean, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Andrea. Well, the Toronto Maple Leafs continued their preseason action at home against the Canadiens last night.
Robertson going after it, and Robertson picks the pocket, comes up with it, scores! Nick Robertson with the beauty on a delayed penalty call.
Nick Robertson scored the game-winning goal in the second period. The Leafs beat Montreal 2-1 for their first win of the preseason. William Nylander left the game in the first period following an apparent upper body injury. The teams will face each other again tomorrow in Montreal, and we'll have more news coming up after the break. A group of local filmmakers in British Columbia have had the experience of a lifetime.
They set out in search of humpback whales, and the whales came to them. CTV's Ben Nesbitt reports.
So close, they could see every detail.
Staring into the eye of a humpback whale is an experience like no other.
Wow. Filmmaker Jonah Lee McNamee and his team had set out off the coast of Powell River, hoping to capture footage of the magnificent mammals. And boy, did they ever. They certainly did not expect this.
We didn't get that close to the whales. The whales got that close to us. They chose to approach us out of their own curiosity or whatever.
That curiosity lasted hours.
We're thinking, is this whale going to hit our boat? Like, is the whale going to get injured? Is it going to capsize our boat? Like, are we going to be like drowning with all our camera gear sunk to the bottom of the ocean? So we're pretty scared.
Their fear, however, did not keep the cameras from rolling. And soon enough, the group realized that the pair they were scared of were in fact just majestic, gentle giants.
Pretty soon, we could kind of sense that these whales, despite their size, have incredible agility. And the way they moved around in the water was like watching a dance.
A dance that left Lee McNamee and crew awestruck. And fortunately, the boat, and thousands of dollars of equipment were unscathed, left with stunning footage and memories of a lifetime.
All of us on the crew kind of felt like it was a divine moment that these whales came to play with us for our humpback whale documentary. We're just so thankful that these whales chose us.
Lee McNamee will direct the documentary. He hopes it will be ready sometime next year, so others can get a glimpse of that breathtaking day. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Vancouver.
We have breaking news from the soccer world. Canada's Christine Sinclair is calling it a career. The 41-year-old announcing today she is retiring from the game at the end of the National Women's Soccer League season. She currently plays for the Portland Thorns. Sinclair retired from the Canadian national team last year, and she finished her international career as the world's top goal scorer among both men and women with 190 goals. What a career.
She's the best there is.
And anybody in media who's had the chance to meet her, the nicest woman on the planet. I mean, she has it all.
It's so cool to see, you know, that she's had this great career, and I can't wait to see what she does next, because you know it's going to be great, because she does everything top-notch.
Top-notch.
The day is also top-notch. We have a beautiful forecast, a goal-winning forecast. It is going to be beautiful outside, so if you can get out and enjoy it, I recommend you do so, but hydration and sun protection is still key. Although we are in the fall season, we still have a really high UV index at a 6. As we head throughout the afternoon, sitting in that mid-20 range when it comes to the humidex values, and really no change as we head into that latter half of our day. A little unsettled weather as we kick off our Saturday, kind of that top end of what's left of Helene at that point, but we will by no means see a soaker every day. Just keep the umbrella handy, and then by the time we get to Sunday, things start to clear up.
Thanks, Jess. And that is CTV's News at Noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jess Smith and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Sean Leathong. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 6.